Monica. Monica, Monica, Monica. Monica Geller of popular sitcom Friends is one of the worst characters in the history of television. She makes me want to wash my eyes with hand sanitizer. She makes me want to stand in an abandoned Ukrainian parking lot and scream her name at a bunch of dead crows. Nobody liked her, except for Chandler. He married her, which brings me to the next point. What kind of a name for a show was Friends when two of them were related and the rest of them just fucked for 10 seasons? Like maybe their fucking was secondary to their friendship, or they all had enough emotional equilibrium to be able to maintain a constant state of mutual respect despite the fucking or conspicuous non-fucking that was occurring in their lives. But I have to say, it just doesn't seem that emotionally realistic, especially when you take into consideration that they were not the most self-aware of people, and that to be able to maintain a friendship through the various complications of heterosexual monogamy is enormously difficult, especially when you take into consideration what cunts they all were. I fell in love with a friend once, and we like to congratulate each other on what good friends we were and how great it was that we could be such good friends and still fun. Until we stopped fucking. And then we weren't such good friends anymore. I had a dream the other night about this friend and how we were walking through sunlight many years ago, dragged up from the vaults like old military propaganda. You know the kind, young women leaving a factory arm in arm while their fiancés are being handsomely shot to death in Prague. And even though they don't love me anymore and I don't love them, at least not in a romantic sense, the memory of what it had been like not to want to strap concrete blocks to my head and drown myself in a public fountain rather than spend another day with them not talking to me came back. And I remembered the world for a moment as it had been when we had just met and love seemed possible, and neither of us resented the other one. And it made me sad. Not just because things ended badly, but more broadly because my sadness had less to do with the emotional specifics of that situation and more to do with the transitory nature of romantic love, which is becoming relevant to me once again because I just met someone new. And this dream reminded me that although I believe there are ways love can endure, it's just that statistically, or based on personal experience, it's unlikely that things are going to go well for long. There's such a narrow window for happiness in this life, and if the past is anything to go by, everything is about to go slowly but inevitably wrong in a non-confrontational but ultimately disappointing way. Monica. Monica, Monica, Monica. Monica Geller, from popular sitcom Friends, is the favourite character of the Uber driver that drove me home the other day. And the main reason for this poem, because I remember thinking, Monica, maybe he doesn't remember who she is. Because when I asked him specifically which character is the best of Friends, he said, the woman. And when I listed their names for him, Phoebe, Rachel, and Monica, he said Monica, but he said it with a kind of question mark at the end, like, Monica? Which led me to believe that either he was ashamed of liking her, or he had no idea who he was talking about and had got her confused with one of the other less objectively terrible characters. I think the driver meant to say Phoebe, because Phoebe's everyone's favourite. She once stabbed a police officer. She once gave birth to her brother's triplets. She doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks of her. Monica gives a shit what everyone thinks about her. And Monica's parents didn't treat her very well. And that's probably where her underlying insecurities come from, that have since manifested themselves into manipulative and controlling behaviour. It's not that I think Monica is unredeemable. I can recognise that her personality has been shaped by her desire to succeed, and that even when she did succeed, it wasn't enough, particularly for her mother, who made her feel like her dreams were stupid and a waste of time. And that kind of constant belittlement can do terrible things to a person. So maybe getting really upset at people who don't use coasters is a understandable, or at least comparatively sane, response to the psychic baggage of having your parents never believe in you. Often I look at the world, I'm dumbfounded that anyone can function at all given the kinds of violence that so many people have inherited from the past. But that doesn't excuse throwing a dinner plate at your friends during a quiet game of Pictionary. Even if there was an isolated incident and Monica's moved on from it, I still don't want to watch her on TV. I'm falling in love, and I don't know what to do about it. Throw me in a haunted wheelbarrow and set me on fire. Don't even get me started on Ross.